Hello everyone. So now let's see the WebDriver example to print the sum of the numbers. That is, I go to americangolf.co.uk website, and out here I go to this golf clubs menu, and over here say suppose I go to this drivers link. Right, and then what you have to do is you have to print the sum of all these numbers that are listed over here under the brand section. You have to print the sum of all these numbers. So how will you do this? Let's see that now. Right, so I'll open up my Visual Studio. Here I have created the WebDriver example project in which I have just included my Selenium DLLs and just try to open my Firefox browser. Alright, and then for that, and the next what I'll say is I'll simply navigate to my URL, that is I have to navigate to this particular URL on the web page. Okay, now before actually starting with this example, I assume that you know how to extract multiple components on the web page. That is out here. Now next what we have to do is we have to extract all these elements on the web page. So if I try to inspect this element, it says that the first element has got this XPath for it. That is, the first element's XPath is this. Similarly, if I consider the XPath for the second element, the second element has got this XPath. Alright, and similarly, the XPath for the third element as well. Okay, now if you carefully look into the XPath of all these elements, do you find anything different, or the complete XPath is same for all the three elements? If we consider the XPath of all these elements carefully, you can see that the index of the li tag is changing for the three elements. Rest complete XPath is same for the three elements. The only difference being in the index of this li tag. So we can simply try to find all the elements based on this criteria only. That is, I will say driver.find all the elements by the XPath. What would be the XPath? The XPath would be this. Okay, right. So if I try to inspect with this XPath in the Firebug, if I try to inspect with this XPath and if I do an evaluation, you see that it gives us all the elements that we actually want in our example. It extracts all these numbers. Right, so we can simply try to find with this XPath, and this will give us a list of web element say numbers, and then I'll just check how many numbers are there. That is numbers dot count. Okay, and then I'll just write console dot read key and I'll run my code. Okay, so it opens up the Firefox browser, takes you to the URL, and then if I look into my console window, it says that the total number of numbers are 10 in this example. Right, so we have 10 numbers whose sum we want to print. Alright, now next what you have to do, we have seen that we have total 10 numbers over here. Now what we have to do is we have to extract all these elements one by one and then print the sum of all these numbers. Now before extracting these elements, let me first print the text of all these elements. Right, so I'll write a for loop. Say for int I is equal to 0, I less than the total number of numbers you have, numbers dot count I plus plus. Right, and I'll just print the sum of all these numbers, that is you have numbers dot text. Okay, and I run it. Okay, so we have this output with us, that is it extracts the text of all the numbers. Now if we consider the output, it is giving us the result, it is giving us the text of the numbers that we actually want. But in the output what we are getting is, we are getting the exact element, that is the numbers are enclosed in the brackets. But when we will sum all these numbers, we don't want the brackets, we just want the numbers, we just want the digits which are there inside these brackets. So what we have to do is, we have to first of all remove these brackets from these numbers. We have to remove the brackets from these numbers that we are getting in our example, that we are getting in the output, right? So how will you remove these brackets from the numbers? So our first task is to check, is to see how can we remove these brackets from the numbers. So how will you do it? That is, for that we will, like in C sharp, what we have is, we have a function with us, that is the substring function. Okay, that is, let me just store this text in a variable. Okay, and then from this text I want to extract only the numbers. I don't want the complete text having the brackets as well with it, right? I just want the numbers only, I just want the digits only, right? So for that we have a function in C sharp which will help us retrieve a substring from the given text. Okay, so substring is the function which starts at a specified character position and has a specified length with it. Alright, so inside this substring function you'll have to specify the starting index. That is, now what do I mean by starting index? Now out here we have this first number, that is 19, enclosed within the brackets. So the complete length of this number is actually 4. That is, the first is the bracket, then we have 1, then 9, and then the round bracket closing. So the first round bracket is at the 0th index, then 1 is at the first index, 9 is at the second index, and the round bracket closing is at the third index. So what we want in our example, we want the number that is 1. And then where it is actually there at the first position, because at the 0th position the round bracket opening is there, right? So in our substring function, what would be the starting index that we want? We want the number that is at the first index. Okay, and then the second parameter is up till which length you want to extract your data. Okay, that is, I want my data which is starting at the first index, and until where do you want your data? That is, we just want 2 digits, right? 1 and then 9. So our length is 2. So I want the data till my second length. Okay, so our requirement is 2. Okay, fine. So now if I run my code, so we'll just see the output, what data we are getting now. Okay, so alright, so the test has finished. Oh, okay, I didn't printed it. Okay, hold on, I'll just store it in a variable and I'll just print this text, this t variable, fine, and I'll run it again. So it opens the browser and then we have the output, right? So it prints the text of the first digit, that is 19, within the brackets, and then after applying the substring function, we are getting the exact number that we want. We are getting only the number, that is 19, right? And then in the second case, 10 is the number. Okay, and then in the third case, the third digit is actually a single digit number. The third element is actually a single digit number, that is only 9. Alright, and then if we look into the output of this third number, we are getting the result as 9, and then the round bracket closing as well in the output. Similarly, for all the single digit number, we are getting the same output. That is, for the single digit number, we are getting the round bracket closing as well. Now, why it is so? It is because for the 2-digit number, the length is 4. But for the single digit number, now the length is 3. One for the round bracket opening, then we have single digit number, and then the round bracket closing. Right, so the length of this number, this element, is 3. And then what we are saying that from this text, get us the text that is starting at the first index. That means the text is starting at the first index, that would be 9, and till where it has to complete its search, that is till the second position. So that means your second position will end at the round bracket closing. So for that only you are getting the result as this. Alright, okay, so we'll have to validate with the length of the string, with the length of the element. That is, I say that if the length of the text, if it equals 4, then it should extract the element starting at the first index until the second position, right? Else what we say is, else if the length of the text, if it equals 3, then it should extract the data which would be starting at the first index, and your search will complete at the first index only. That is, we just want the data at the first position only. Right? So I will store this. Let me just initialize the variable and I keep it over here. Okay, so according to the length of the text, I say that if the length of the text is equal to 4, then it will extract the data starting at the first index and will complete your search till the second position. Else if the length of the text is equal to 3, then it will start your search starting at the first index and will complete your search at that particular location only, since we have only single digit number with us. Alright, okay, fine. So now if I try to print the sum, now if I try to print the text of my numbers, I run it. Okay, so now you see that. So now we are getting the correct result, that is, we are only getting the numbers only for the 2-digit and for the single digit number as well. We are only getting the numbers, not the brackets with the output, right? So that means now we are going fine with our script. Okay, so we have successfully seen how to extract the numbers excluding the brackets. Now next what we have to do is, we have to print the sum of all these numbers, right? The numbers that we have extracted right now in the t variable. Okay, so I'll keep a variable at the top, say int sum is equal to 0. Okay, and then one more thing over here is that we are storing the result in a string variable, but the sum is actually an integer variable, right? So first of all, I'll just convert this text which is of the type string into an integer variable. Okay, right, say int s is equal to convert dot to int 32, and what you have to convert? You have to convert the t variable in which you are actually getting your result, the numbers. Okay, fine, and then I'll just print the sum of them, that is sum is equal to sum plus s. Fine, and then I'll just print the sum as well, that is this sum variable. Okay, so now if I run my code again, okay, so now you see that it says total number of numbers are 10, and then it says that the sum of all these numbers is 55, which we want to print in our case. Right, so this is how you can print the sum of all the numbers in your WebDriver example.